my dad always taught me something that I've never forgotten. He said, if you take somebody's money to do a job, do it. So when I tell people, I said, coal miners, I've got to fight for their jobs, and I will. And I will. If you want somebody that won't, you're going to have to elect somebody that will not. I'll fight for every job that's out there, and sometimes it doesn't bode well in some places. I'm probably the most progressive guy you ever met, but when it comes to people having a job, I was bumping up against Barack Obama's, some of his environmental issues, and Joe Biden, who was vice president at the time, asked me to come and meet with him and see if there's some common ground we could get on. And I appreciated the opportunity, but one of his assistants was there, and they were making, he said, these mines are going to close anyway. And why are you fighting so hard over this? I said, well, let me give you an example. We actually represented a power plant here in West Virginia, and I actually forget the name of it right now. And it had about 150 to 200 people working there. I said, well, to us, including myself, maybe another year of employment doesn't sound like a lot. But if you're making $100,000, that's $100,000 you won't have if that mine closes, or this power plant closes today. If it lasts for another year or 2 years, maybe you'll earn your pension. Maybe you'll have health care for life. That's how important these jobs in West Virginia are. And I was just saying, we're going to fight to keep these places open as long as we can, because I put myself in their shoes. When you lose this coal mining job that pays you $120,000 a year, if health care that's the best in the world, and you got time off, where are you going to find that job in Appalachia? You don't. You're hunting for a job now that's probably pays $30,000 or $40,000, and there's nothing wrong with those jobs. I'm just saying, when you've got one of those jobs, you ought to try to keep it. We ought to try to be putting everybody in a job that pays $100,000 or $150,000 a year of health care. Everybody ought to have a job like that. I think it's sad that the small amount of money we pay school teachers in this state. It's just not right. I mean, you go to school, get an education, you want to do something, you don't pay them very much money. I was all for the strike that the teachers had. We did everything in the world that we could to help them. When somebody's on strike, you got to support that strike. You don't say, well, I don't know if I agree with what they're striking over. Hey, if they're striking, they've already made the decision. Go try to help them, because someday it's going to be you that you're going to need to help. And we've had to do that many, many times in our organization. But I think that as far as where we go from here, every year the number of coal miners in this country shrinks and shrinks and shrinks. I find that to be sad, but I think this state's paid a price for that, because this state's fought, by the way, I don't fault anybody, the Republican or Democrat or politician at all, to try to keep these jobs here, because where are we going to find the next jobs that pay this kind of money? I think everybody, whether you're a union leader, or you're in the state legislature, or you're in the United States Congress, you have an obligation to the state that you're from to try to make things as good as possible in that state. We need good paying jobs in this state. One of the things that we supported, all these panels that come here and provide electricity, solar power, they're coming from China. We're being crazy. What we're doing is absolutely asinine. Our position was, fine, if that's where you're going with this, but put laid off coal miners and manufacturing those down in Logan County or Boone County or somewhere. And that was our approach to this. These turbines, they're not built in the United States either, on these big gigantic wind turbines. Those ought to be manufactured in this country. And when it comes to preventing some of that from coming in this country, so be it. People in China don't make much money at all. We're supporting poverty wages in China, at the expense of coal miners' jobs in the United States. Where's the transition? I've heard the words just transition so many times, my head hurts. There's no such thing ever in this country called that you could point to as that's a just transition. The closest it comes is to whatever a union can get out of a bankruptcy court. You know, 60-some bankruptcies in this country, in the coal fields of the United States. And every time, whatever the employer asks for, well, do away with pensions, you got it. Do away with health care, you got it. Got to cut wages, you got it. Don't need the union anymore. Gone. That can't be right. We have fought on Capitol Hill for reform of what happens at bankruptcy. Nobody should be able to go in and literally fire everybody working there. If another employer wants to operate that plant and it was union, it ought to be union when that new owner takes over. People shouldn't lose their health care. I mean, think what was at risk here. This battle over pensions and health care literally went on in our union from 1989 until 2019. That's how long that fight lasted. We won it. No one lost their health care and no one lost their pensions, but we were that close to everybody losing their pensions and everybody losing their health care. At the end of the day, we prevailed, but it took every single, I'm so proud of our members. They went to rallies, they went on marches. We put 10,000 people on the streets here in Charleston on a couple of occasions. I don't know how many of us got arrested during that period of time. It was probably in the hundreds. During the Pittston strike, 4,000 people got arrested in nonviolent civil disobedience. You learn to do things differently and how to fight differently. There's never going to be another Blair Mountain. If you say you're going to overthrow the government, you might get shot. But you gotta. That doesn't mean you don't fight. You just have to figure out how to fight and what can be successful. And I saw those people getting off of buses over and over and over again for years and years, and then going to Capitol Hill and wearing camouflage shirts that says we are everywhere. It says we are one on the front and we are everywhere on the back. Everybody on Capitol Hill knew who these people were. They went in, and people from Kentucky went in to see their representative. People from Ohio went in to see theirs. People from West Virginia went in to see theirs. People from Alabama went in to see theirs. People from Colorado. It was the best. It was the best lobbying group on Capitol Hill, and I said on several occasions that people in $8 shirts with UMWA on it out lobby people from K Street making $150,000 to $200,000 a month, and at the end of the day, it was one of the greatest pieces of legislation ever passed. Maybe the only thing that would compare to that would have been the Wagner Act itself in 1935. But as the future is that we've got to bring in more. We have to organize outside the coal industry, because if the coal industry isn't expanding, we got to keep our foot in the door here when it comes to coal. Organize every single non-union coal miner out there. I hope when they're listening to this that they might take some inspiration from it. But we've got to organize other places too. Everybody deserves a union. Everybody needs a union. Everybody should want a union too. If you're getting low pay, join a union. If you don't have health care, join a union. Whatever problem you have, you should join a union. It doesn't necessarily have to be the mine workers, although I wish it would be.